All right, so your grandfather had supper with
Had
Elvis.
supper with Elvis the night before he flew to Dallas to start filming Love Me Tender.
Tell us about that.
Well, that's really all I know about that.
Where was it at? Where was he at?
Now that I don't know. I never bothered to ask. But I did know that it's in the letter over there that they have here that my mother typed. But he was good friends with Gladys and Vernon anyway, their family was. And as a matter of fact, one of my mother's cousins married Elvis's uncle,
Really?
Ruba Presley.
Ruba.
And they used to live next door to each other, a door down from Elvis and East Tupelo, and they'd walk Elvis and my mother's cousin to school, just Ruby on one side, little Elvis on the other. And, you know,
That is awesome. How old are you?
I'm 70.
70. So you've been around the world.
Yeah.
So did they sell, I have a question about bicycles. You mentioned that there was a bicycle in the window. What brand?
I have no idea. I never saw the bicycle, and I've just recently learned about the bicycle.
Okay.
I had thought that Elvis wanted the rifle from the beginning, but then I've learned that it was the bicycle, then the rifle,
Right.
then the guitar.
Right. Because you hear different versions of
Right.
it. You hear the rifle, or you hear the bicycle,
Right.
or you hear both.
And I heard about a wagon yesterday too. I was talking to Mr. Guy Harris out there,
Yeah.
who was his lifelong best friend. And he had a wagon that somebody had backed over, and he wanted a wagon. Then he saw the bicycle, so he just keeps escalating. You
Yeah.
know? But it's just interesting history, you know. And the thing about Elvis, he came from nothing,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and
And you know what? He gave it all away
that's right.
because he cared about people.
Story I heard, and I don't know how true it is. When he died, he had $15,000 in his checking account and $100,000 in his savings account.
Wouldn't doubt that.
And I suppose he
But
still owns
he
the
didn't
record.
keep it all for himself.
I suppose he still owns the record for buying more Cadillacs than anybody in history.
I would say so.
I don't have one, but
Yeah, he has to hold that record. Well, my friend, this has been incredible. I'm so glad I got to meet you. It was an honor to meet you
it's
today.
under me, you.
And man, those are stories. And I'm gonna go to where your grandfather's house was, and we're gonna get that on camera. We're gonna save that history because I think that's an important piece of the puzzle. I'd like to know where he lived. What was it like for him that day that he sold Elvis the guitar?
Well, you know, of course, at that time it wasn't a big deal. He just made a sale, you know.
Yeah.
But
And he didn't know that it was going to turn into anything.
But the thing about, I was so impressed when my grandfather told me that he'd gotten down on one knee in front of Elvis and put his finger in his face and said, "Who knows, one of these days you might be famous." But my grandfather had a huge house. It was 3 stories, and he rented rooms. And he had bought it from a doctor, which is kind of funny because Elvis bought his house from a doctor.
He did. You're right.
And it was a huge house, and we used to love to go up on the 3rd floor and just rumble around, you know. But he worked here forever and had a little farm out there. He piddled in a little farm out there. Had a little money, but he was
Yeah.
careful with it.
He must have. He's that kind of guy. He was meticulous about things, it sounds like. So his story would be told meticulously.
Right.
He would remember it.
He
you
would
know.
remember everything.
He wouldn't fudge it at all.
He was the type of fella, I've been with him, and we'd be riding in his pickup truck, and he'd find something laying on the side of the road. He'd pick it up, put it in the back of the truck, have it sold before he got to the house. He just happened to have what somebody needed.
Wheeler dealer.
Yeah, he was.
That's incredible.
And he rented hospital beds and hospital supplies and wheelchairs and crutches and things like this. And told me a story one time about a fella's wife had been sick for a long, long time. And he charged like $5 a week to rent a hospital bed, you know. This man's wife had been terminally ill for a long time, and he rented a bed. Well, by the time his wife passed, he couldn't afford to pay my grandfather the rent on the bed. So he said, "You take the bed back and I'll give you a cow." My grandfather sold the cow for more than the rent on the bed, and he still had the bed.
That's right.
That's just the kind of man he was. You've seen this picture over here, I
I
guess.
have not. Let's check it out. And you said your mother had a letter.
Yes, she typed this letter right here. As a matter of fact, I've got the original. I think my wife. This is the original picture that should have been there. That's F.L. Bubba right there.
So is that him on the front of his
That's
front porch of
that's
that
not
house?
his house. That's not where that is.
Okay. So I'll get a good photo of this letter so I can show them what it says. But that's your granddad that sold Elvis the bicycle.
My wife, I mean, the guitar.
I mean, what am I saying? Guitar. Yeah, I got bicycle on my
I do
brain.
too. Yeah, that was.
Very
and
cool.
I gave Connie this picture. She had it enlarged. This store is the same as it's been since I was a child when I first
So
started coming
when
here.
did you come in here? How long ago?
Oh, when I was about 8 years old, probably for the first time. My grandfather, F.L. Bobo, lived on South Church Street.
Okay.
He would walk to work in the morning, walk home for lunch, walk back after lunch, and walk back after work. Did that for about 40 years.
What house was that? Do you know the address?
607 South Church.
607 South Church. Is the house still there?
No, it's a vacant lot
Okay,
now.
but I'll be able to find the lot.
You
where
will.
it was.
Yeah, it's on the corner of Church, right across from the health department.
Okay.
All right. If you look on the sidewalk, when they laid the sidewalk in front of my grandfather's house, he went out and put marbles in the wet concrete, and it says 607.
Oh, okay, in marbles. Okay, that's incredible.
Yeah.
All right, I'll definitely go look for that.
Go
man.
do that.
Thank you so much.
You're
my
very
friend.
welcome.
Yes, sir. So, friends, I am in Tupelo, Mississippi. I'm at the corner of Elliott and South Church. You can see that giant smokestack right there. I'm going to show you something down here. Forrest Bobo, that sold Elvis the guitar, lived. Unfortunately, the house is gone, but you can see what it would have looked similar to that or this house. He lived right here. Now, the reason that I know for a fact, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that he lived right here is his grandson said that he put this here. And I want you to look. He said in marbles, he put 607 right there in the concrete. And if you look, those are indeed marbles. I don't think you can get better than that. The guy that sold Elvis's first guitar at Tupelo Hardware lived right here. Now, in a moment, I'm going to go from here to the hardware store. He walked there every day, walked home for lunch, and walked back every single day. And he was there for many, 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 many years. So let's retrace those steps of Forrest Bobo.
Hello.
Hello, nice day. So friends, Forrest Bobo would leave here and walk home. So I traced from there to here, but I don't know if it's correct or not. So now we're going to go back and I'm going to make some assumptions about how he would walk, where he would walk. So I'm going to speculate that he would go straight across. And this looks like these buildings would have been here at this time. This is nothing but pure speculation, but we don't know till we know. Right here. He lived right here.
Lived there.
So he thinks the manager of the cotton mill lived here, which this is the biggest house on the block around here. The mayor lived here. He said the Bobos lived here and there. And this is the next door neighbor that lives here. So he knows a little bit about the history.
The Patricks lived in this
The Patricks lived in this house. Very cool. Well, man, I thank you for that information. He told me about this yesterday, and I thought, well, if that's still there, that's incredible history.
Right.
I've got to come
I've seen
capture
it
that.
there, but I didn't know that was the story behind it.
Yep, he said that his granddaddy put that there.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. So
That's neat.
that's awesome history. How you doing?
He's filming.
I
am checking out.
Oh, no, you had to say I was filming.
He should know, shouldn't he?
He should know I was filming, that's right.
Right.
So you don't want to be on this?
Not really.
Okay.
I like being behind the camera like you. That's a good place to be.
Just checking out the Elvis Festival.
Hey.
What about you?
Hey, in there is the original guitar
Yes, here today.
that was bought here.
Yeah.
And the blue velvet shirt that he wore at the afternoon show in '56.
Well, I'm going to go in and I'm going to check it out.
Well, I'm going to follow you in there. How about
Let's
that?
go. Let's
All
go.
right, let's go check it out.
Right.
That's the guy that sold him the guitar. This dude right here.
Yeah.
Forrest Bobo.
It's over there.
Yeah, turn left and go up in there.
Take a left.
And they're getting ready to do a reenactment of Elvis and Gladys coming in here
Are they?
behind the guitar.
Great.
That is the guitar right there. Larry, do you know Danny? This is Billy Smith's son. Billy and Joe's.
How you doing? Nice to meet
That's
you.
Larry Moss.
Nice to meet you.
I met you yesterday. I'm Danny too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Y'all doing how you?
I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were in here with the camera going.
Bumped up in your way, didn't
I
you?
don't mean to bump you in.
Okay.
You all right?
That's fantastic.
But that's the shirt.
Yeah. See that?
That's the shirt that he wore
That's so cool.
in that concert.
Something, ain't it?
It's something. It's amazing.
Fantastic.
Smith,
No.
right? Aren't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Danny?
Yes, ma'am. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
What do you think about that?
I love it. I love it. It was really good. Of course, you know, I just, like I said, I enjoy the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, this is your festival, man. This is your town.
This is what we live for.
Yeah.
We live Elvis.
Yeah. Every day.
Every day. Good. Columbus came. That is so cool. Look at that. Like that.
That's pretty cool.
Can't love it.
So, friends, this is the letter that Forrest Bobo wrote October the 2nd, 1979. He passed away about a year and 3 months after he wrote this. It says, "Good morning. My name is Forrest L. Bobo. My home address is 607 South Church, which I showed you with the marbles. I am 78 years young today, but I can remember well the afternoon when Elvis Presley and his mother came into the Tupelo hardware where I worked for 20 years. He wanted to buy a .22 caliber rifle, and his mother wanted him to buy a guitar. I showed him the rifle first, and then I got the guitar for him to look at. I put a wood box behind the showcase and let him play with the guitar for some time. Then he said he did not have that much money, which was only $7.75 plus a 2% sales tax. His mother told him that if he would buy the guitar instead of the rifle, she would pay the difference for him. The papers have said that the guitar cost $12.50, but at that time, you could have bought a real nice guitar for that amount. The small amount of money that he had to spend had been earned for running errands and doing small jobs for people. And then he surmised it all to say, I am proud to have a little part in Elvis's life. I had supper with Elvis the night that he left for his first audition. We all wished him a great success, and he sure made a great life for himself and the rest of the world. Thank you for your time, Forrest L. Bobo." And by the way, this is on Tupelo Hardware Stationery, just as a little aside. Great story, backed up by family, by eyewitnesses, by even his own letter right here. So it happened there, friends, right here at Tupelo Hardware. So January 1946, Elvis would have been 11. Forrest Bobo would have been about 45 years old. So this is the story of a 45-year-old man changing the course of history by selling an 11-year-old a guitar And now you know the rest of the story. And it went from this at Tupelo Hardware in Tupelo, Mississippi. And it's a beautiful little town. Look at this place. And it changed to this. This statue is in the park right there. And she's tightening up and reliving it right now.